I call this meeting of the South Refuge School Board at the JW Jacobs Building at 6:30. We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Baker, would you call roll, please?
Misha
Present.
Cole Kangas.
Present.
Darrell Fletcher.
Present.
Debbie Coward.
Present.
Lori Hicks. Stephen Baker present. Daniel Winston.
Present.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of agenda. Do we have any corrections? The agenda will be followed as written. Next item on the agenda is recognition of people and programs. Mr. Goff.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. First off, I would like to recognize Trustee Kangas. This is a kind of a personal one for me because Trustee Kangas was actually a student of mine. I was the principal of Fisher, and you know, it's always great to see your fifth graders grow up and take active roles in the community, and I was extremely proud when Nicole stepped up to fill that position, and has done a great job for us, and has grown tremendously in her role. And Nicole, you got a huge, wonderful future ahead of you, and I'm glad the time you spent on our board has been very valuable to us. You certainly bring a youthful spirited, dimension to us, right? And that has been, that's been good for the board. It's been very good for the board. And so, not that it's been a real long time you've been on the board, but you certainly have had a strong impact on the board. So very proud of you, and wish you a lot of luck in your future endeavors. And the company was wise to corral you in and put you in the position that they're putting you in. So I'm proud of you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I would like to recognize Linda Earl. Linda has completed 11 months in the MSBO Business Official Academy. And so she's got that credentials under her belt, and she's really doing a lot of work to get herself not certified, she's certified, but to get herself, the professional development she needs to continue to grow. And she really has, I think, a lot of, she'll have a good future with us here at South Redford. So very happy about that. Quick report on summer school. We will do a more intense report once summer school is over, and those who are running it can come and give you a more in-depth report. But it's been, wasn't sure what to think about it when we first started. As you know, it's very different than what we've done in the past. It's an 8-week program. It's kids stay for lunch and they have a morning and an afternoon. It's a little bit like what we had last school year in terms of, except it's all face-to-face. None of it's online. And it's really gone extremely smooth. I'm sure there's been some issues, but nothing that has gotten to me. And so every issue's been handled at the building level. And so I think we really have done well by our kids this summer. And so not that we haven't in past summers, but given the pandemic and the fact that kids were out of school for so long, I think it was a wise choice. I think that most districts opted out of the 8-week requirement. So just kind of a refresher, the state offered an additional around $500 per student if you had certain conditions. One of those conditions was 8 weeks of class. And so, but we stuck with it, and the curriculum department did an incredible job, and the teachers to put the program together. And so that's wonderful. Track and field, I know that I sent you a couple of pictures, but that is completed, and it looks amazing. It looks brand new because it is, but it really looks good. The design on it, the alternating green is a kind of every 10 yards, I guess, every 5 yards. I'm not sure if it's 5 or 10, but it's an alternating shade of green, just a little bit different, but it looks pretty cool. And then with the 2 eagles on the 25-yard line, the black tee in the middle, just it looks really awesome. So happy about that. Gibson, we're going to talk a little bit about Gibson tonight in terms of the abatement, but just a quick report to the community about the process for that building. We will get the bids on the abatement. There is an oil tank there, so we had to do some research on that oil tank a little bit. There's a meter inside of it that says there's 1,000 gallons or something like that in it. But we think it might be stuck on 1972. So we're not exactly sure. So the company that's going to go in and take it out, obviously they're careful with it. It could be just water in the tank. So there is definitely a liquid in there, and it's definitely water on top. So we'll see. But that, so we've got the tank to deal with, turning off utilities, and we'll talk today about the abatement. That'll take about 6 weeks. That'll start on the 24th, assuming that the board approves the abatement bid recommendation on the 23rd, which is 2 weeks from today. And then, fencing will go up around it. And after the 6 weeks, then the building will come down. There won't be a lot left of the building once the abatement is done. Because they'll have to take out the windows. They actually have to scrape all of the caulking between the windows and the bricking and everything. So, but that's kind of the story on Gibson or Will Rogers. And then Mr. Smith, Desmond Smith, and Mr. Rudy, Matt Rudy, have been working with the health department, and so they're going to have at Jumpstart on the 2nd, Thursday, September 2nd at Pierce, and Wednesday and Thursday, September 1st and 2nd at Thurston, there will be an opportunity for kids and adults, really anybody who comes to the building can get vaccinated. So it would be a great opportunity for our community to get their vaccinations if they haven't been vaccinated. So I think that's good news. That's all I have, Madam Vice President.
I have a question about the summer school. How's the attendance?
That's a good question. I haven't heard that's a problem, so doesn't mean that it isn't. I'll find out and I'll get something out to the board.
All right, thank you.
Amy, I'm sorry, Christine, unless you know.
How's the what?
The attendance at summer school?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about the attendance.
Okay. And that's probably a good sign.
Yeah, usually we hear about
Yeah.
low attendance or missing students.
But I'll get something out to the board tomorrow.
And I have something to say to Nicole. You've been great. It has taught me a lot about millenniums. And I learned that. And we're sorry you're leaving, but opportunity sometimes only comes once.
That's true.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other board? We're going to talk about our classes. Nisha and Cheryl.
You are so enthusiastic about these classes. I did though finish my advocacy
Good for
certification.
you. I'm glad. Yes.
Got with that. Yeah. And just seeing people that you've seen over the years at the classes and stuff, so. It's good.
Okay.
But I took 2 classes too. I'm working on the 2 levels that I had missed overseeing, that I thought I took a long time ago but didn't. So I'm working on my advocacy and everything too. So I took a class on Saturday and one on Sunday. But I missed the in-person. It's harder, you know, to connect with the people like we do when we go to conference or do the class in person, you know, to get that feeling. You know, it's kind of robotic on the Zoom, and 3 hours of sitting there, you know, even though they'll send us into a breakout session, it's a little taxing. That's why I don't believe Shirley took 5. You know, how you could sit in front of a screen like that, you know, but I guess it's an alternate way of doing things. Like my screen would disappear and I would be trying to make sure I was mute and calling for Amanda to help get them back on because I couldn't figure out what I had pressed. But I made it through 2 classes. I don't know if I'll do it again, but I did it this time.
And I took 5. And they were good. We talked about the generations. You know, we did that, and I told them about the sticky points book study, and I think everybody on the class thought that was pretty good. They kind of liked the fact that we do book studies, and a couple of the people said they were going to take that back to them. I told them getting a lot of information, and it was good. And yes, sometimes I took the audio out and walked around and turned the volume up loud and kind of walked around. I was on the back porch, so it worked out pretty good. Next item on the agenda is Plus Delta Plan for Improvement. Is that
Madam Vice President?
Yeah.
I did forget one thing. You do have in front of you an agenda for next week's meeting. Just a reminder that on August 16th, we'll have the second Zoom class for us on the 4th Industrial Revolution.
Okay, is that you, Dr. Hofer?
Yes, the Plus Delta plan for improvement. I have 2 Plus Deltas to report out on. One was from the board meeting process from the regular Board of Education meeting that was held on July 12th. And at that meeting, there were no deltas to report. There were 2 pluses. The temperature and lighting in the boardroom was good, and the meeting went smoothly. The second is a Plus Delta regarding the board meeting process from the special Board of Education meeting that was held on July 19th. And again, there were no deltas. And the pluses were that it was helpful to have the board study outside of the regular meeting, and that the meeting was not long and a lot was accomplished during it.
Good. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. I want the board member willing to.
Good comments from the audience first.
Oh, I missed that. Comments from the audience. Do we have
There are
any?
none.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move the adoption of the following resolution, please.
Support. It's been moved by Trustee Cheryl and support by Trustee Nicole. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, you're going to call roll. Yeah, call roll,
Stephen Baker, aye. Cheryl Fletcher.
Aye.
Nicole Kangas.
please.
Nisha Early.
Aye.
Daniel Winston. Aye. Laurie Hicks. Shirley Talbot.
Aye. So we have 6 ayes. Motion carried, passed. Okay, next item on the agenda is discuss board trustee candidate selection process. I guess that's me. Okay. Everybody should have, the packet that we're going to send out. First of all, I guess we'll do the media release. I have that. Steve, you want to read that?
South Redwood School Board of Education trustee Nicole Kingus resigned from her position on the board in a letter submitted to the South Redwood Board of Education on Monday, July 12, 2021, to be effective August 12, 2021. Ms. Kingus has served the district as a member of the Board of Education since November 2016. Board policy specifies the board vacancy must be filled from among registered school electors of the South Redwood School District by a majority vote of the remaining board members within 30 days after the vacancy occurs. The board vacancy must be filled by Saturday, September 11, 2021. South Redford residents interested in filling the vacancy must submit their application no later than Tuesday, August 24, 2021 by 4 p.m. Applications can be submitted to the South Redford School District Superintendent's Office, attention Christopher Jones, located at 26141 Schoolcraft Road, Redford, Michigan 48239, or by email to chris.jones@southredford.org. Candidates are asked to submit an application to the board representative, Chris Jones, and to appear at an open special board meeting for an interview on August 30th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. in the boardroom of the Jan Jacobs Building located at 26141 Schoolcraft Road, Redford, Michigan 48239. During the interviews, candidates will be given the opportunity to introduce themselves, explain their interest in and qualifications for the position, and answer questions posed by board members. It is anticipated that the board will take action to appoint a candidate subsequent to the candidate interviews at the special board meeting on August 30th, 2021, or August 31, 2021, depending on the number of candidates. The appointed candidate will serve through the end of Ms. Kingus' term, December 31, 2022. If the board does not fill the vacancy within 30 days after the vacancy occurs, the intermediate school board will fill the vacancy by appointment.
Anybody have any questions about the release?
Chair.
Yes.
So, the information goes to Chris. Do we then look at it, or do we not see it until the actual?
No, Chris is going, when he receives them, he's going to send out a copy.
Okay.
We'll have time so we can kind of look over and then when we have our, on the 30th, when they come in, we'll ask questions. That's all in this packet, so
Okay.
we can talk about it. The recommended steps to fill a board vacancy says publicly announce, post the vacancy by way of the media, district website, letters, etc., and ask interested persons to notify the board president by submitting a resume before the announced deadline. All candidate interviews should be open to the public and follow requirements of the Open Meetings Act. The final vote of the appointment also takes place in a public meeting. The total board presents at the meeting interviews each candidate. During the interview, they will be invited to introduce themselves to board members, explain their interest in and qualifications for the position, and answer questions posted by board members. Likewise, if time allows, the candidates may ask questions to the board. Each board member uses a rating sheet, Form A, as a guide for asking questions and evaluating responses. Interviews are designed to determine how well the candidate feels boards agree upon criteria. The interviews will be in open session but conducted individually with each candidate. For example, no other candidates in the room, to ensure openness, candor, and individual thought as the candidate expresses his or her own beliefs and ideas. The board will strive for fairness and equal vetting through the entire process, including the interview. If there's only one interested individual, the interview shall occur. If the candidate meets the qualifications, the board will appoint that individual. Following the interviews, each board member individually lists on Form B all the candidates who are acceptable and meet the requirements. The board president tabulates the results using Form B1 and determines which candidates are on 50% or more of the individual list. The list for each board member must be publicly announced and recorded in the minutes of the meeting. Try to narrow the top 3 candidates. Following discussion, each board member uses Form C to list a first choice and a second choice for appointment. The president tallies the results on Form C1, giving 2 points for each first choice and 1 point for each second choice. The choices for each board member must be publicly announced and recorded in the minutes of the meeting. The board president then announced for appointment the candidate with the most points. If there is a tie, there is additional board discussion followed by another vote. A board member moves a resolution to appoint a candidate to the board, and it is seconded. After an additional discussion, an affirmative vote by the majority of the current board members determines the appointment. The newly appointed board member takes his or her office and seat at the board table immediately upon completing the oath of office with all necessary documentation, and is invested with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities of board membership. All other candidates receive a letter from the board president thanking them of their interest. Any questions? Okay.
I do, but I want to see if it's going to.
It'll be up here, yes.
To the chair,
Yes.
just, for the press release, you have everything going to Chris, but on number 1, you have them submitting their resume to the board president. It should say the same, whatever we're gonna do. If it's going to Chris, it shouldn't say board president, it should say Chris Jones there.
In this packet, it has that.
So it should be,
we gotta
correct that on there.
Okay. Steve, can you? Okay. Board of Education candidate information packet, board appointment 2020. Announcement of trustee vacancy. The Board of Education, South Redford School District intends to make a provisional appointment to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of Nicole Haynes. Who can apply? Residents of the South Redford School District who are 18 years of age or older and registered to vote in the South Redford School District. An employee of a school district may not be sworn into office as an elected or appointed member of that school district governing board unless and until he or she resigns as an employee. If the employee does not resign, the employment will automatically terminate upon being sworn into office. How to apply. Obtain a copy of the candidate information packet, which includes a candidate application. Submit the application, whether hard copy or electronic, to South Redford School District Superintendent's Office, Christopher Jones, or his email is chris.jones@southredford.org, 216141 Southfield Schoolcraft Road, Redford, Michigan, 48239. Application deadline. Candidates' applications are due in the Superintendent's Office by August 24th, 2021 by 4 p.m. Candidates' interviews. Candidates should be available for interviews to be held at a special board meeting Monday, August 30th, 2021, beginning at 6:30 p.m. in person in the boardroom of the Jan Jacobs Building located at 26141 Schoolcraft Road, Redford, Michigan, 48239. Depending on the number of candidates, the meeting may be continued to a special board meeting August 31, 2021, beginning at 6:30 p.m. Board action. It is anticipated that the board will take action to appoint a candidate subsequent to the candidate interviews at the special board meeting on August 30th, 2021 or August 31, 2021, depending on the number of candidates. Questions. Address questions or request additional information from the superintendent's office, namely Christopher Jones, as noted above. Notes. Only complete applications will be accepted. All applications are available to the public. Everybody got that?
For the chair?
Yes.
I have one question. Because I had somebody out in the community ask me if they're a contract employee, like through EduStaff,
Okay.
Can they legally apply for a board position? Because they do work for the school district even though they're a contract employee, and that would be one thing I'd like clarification legally. You know, I would assume they can't. I was always thought that we couldn't because they work in the building.
Yeah.
Because we contracted out, because there are a few people that are aides and stuff to teachers and that might be interested in the position. And we've never had anybody, we've never allowed anybody connected directly with the school district to apply. It's kind of a gray area.
Yeah, I know that you can, if a family member works for
Right.
the district, you can.
See, I'm
If
thinking,
you're a contracted employee,
like an
Chris,
aide.
do you have that anywhere?
I would have to check the policies. I don't recall.
No, it's not in there because this hasn't come up before.
Yeah.
Well, we'll check the
But legally, you know,
We'll check with
because what
them.
I'm thinking, there is a kindergarten aide out there that I heard is interested in applying. But she's working directly with parents, directly in the classroom, even though we are paying her, but through EduStaff.
That's a good question. We'll get the answer tomorrow.
Because that opens a whole different thing when you have somebody actually working in our buildings and they're sitting on our school board. To me, it's a conflict.
I think it's a conflict, but.
Well, we'll have to find out what the law says.
But I know there's nothing in policy, you know, about contracted stuff. To the best of my poor brain, there's nothing, we've never.
I'm sure that's not a unique question, so I'm sure that MSBO will have an answer, or MASA or both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Redford School District Board of Education candidate information. Included in this packet is information for prospective candidates who wish to apply to fill the unexpired term of resigning board member Nicole Clemens. The person appointed shall hold office until the last day of December following the next regularly scheduled election for district board member, which is November 2022. Candidate applications are applied from the South Redford School District Superintendent's Office, 26141 Schoolcraft Road, Redford, Michigan, 48239. Additional information may be obtained by calling Chris Jones in the Superintendent's Office at 313-535-4000, extension 1012. Following is a schedule for the trustee appointment process. Monday, August 9th, board reviews the selection criteria. Tuesday, August 10th, 2021, notice of vacancy and notice of intent to appoint distributed widely to employees, school sites, parent groups, community members, newspapers, employee organizations, and posted on the district's website. Tuesday, August 10th, candidate application packets are available from the superintendent's office and district website at www.southredford.org. Tuesday, August 24th, 2021. Candidate applications are due in the superintendent's office by 4 p.m. Monday, August 30th, 2021. School board meeting to interview candidates in open session and select board member. Appointment of board member, oath of office will be administered if additional day is not needed. August 31, 2021. Depending on the number of candidates, interviews may be continued on Tuesday, August 31, 2021. Oath of office will be administered if additional days. Requirements: must be 18 years of age or older, citizen of the state, resident of the South Redford School District, registered voter. Board members must be willing to file an annual conflict of interest statement. And they have to do their name, address, phone, email, education, occupation, and years of residence in South Redford School District. And some of the questions that will be on the application is, why do you want to be a board member? What have been your involvement in the South Redford School District, including school-wide activities, committees, and/or district-wide community activities? What unique qualities or experience do you have that would make you a board member? Define the role of the board as you see it. What is your role as a member? Describe or list your community and/or business activities. Describe any other background qualifications or experiences which are related to school, children, or youth. What do you see as the strengths within the South Redford School District? What do you believe to be major needs, problems, challenges, opportunities facing the South Redford School District during the next 5 years? I'll just laugh, because I asked right that.
I remember.
Yeah. And then they say, I in their name do hereby declare myself as an applicant for appointment to the Board of Education, South Redford School District, County of Wayne, and I in their name understand in their name the only complete signed application received to the superintendent's office by the date and time indicated in the trustee vacancy announcement page of this packet will be considered by the board, and that all information included in my application is available to the public. Signed today. Okay, South Redford School District Board of Education candidate information. Candidates may be asked to expand on their written answers and submit materials. Additionally, the following questions may be asked during the candidate interview. Other questions may also be asked at that time. Questions such as, what would you do to prepare yourself for deciding major issues that might come before the board? How would you handle complaints or problems that are brought to your attention by parents or others? As a board member, you have confidentially information that leads you to believe that a certain administrative action you are supporting is correct and proper. For example, an administrator or teacher popular with parents and teachers may be reassigned or dismissed by compelling but confidential reasons. How would you handle public outcry opposing your statements? Your position or numerous issues is diametrically opposed to that you may opposed to that of your fellow board members. How would you handle this professional conflict? Okay, and when we talked about Form A, this is the form that we will fill out when we get ready to decide if we want to, Ken's name and our notes and what we have done about that. Steve, can you kind of explain these forms for me, please?
Sure. Form A is for us as individual board members, and you'll see your name and the date at the top, and then the candidate name, and there's 7 listed just in case we have a multitude. If there's more than that, then we would make additional copies. And then a rating scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest. They aren't specific, so if there's 5 people, they don't have to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We can have 7 that have 5. And then notes or observations that we may want to follow up on in the conversation with the board. And Form B is when it becomes when we determine whether somebody meets the qualifications or not. So each candidate name would be listed on the left column, and then simply a check mark or an initial or whatever you want to do in the acceptable or not acceptable category. Every candidate must appear in one or the other, obviously not both. Form B1 would be used by the president to tabulate the results of the Form B that we've just submitted to the chair. And so we presumably we'd have Jane Doe as a candidate name, and then it would either be, hits would be either voting acceptable or not acceptable. Tolliver would vote acceptable or not acceptable for each of these candidates. And then you'll remember from what Shirley read that if it's at 50% or more of the board members saying acceptable, then that person would move on to the next stage. Form C is for us as individuals to vote our first and our second choice. And the idea here is that we would write in the candidate's name, for our first choice and then our second choice, and then those would be submitted to the chair. And then the chair would read those out loud and then tabulate that using Form C1. Each person who is a first choice gets 2 points. Each person who's a second choice gets 1 point. And then we would total those points for each candidate. So the grand total should be 18 points, assuming that we have 6 board members who are voting. Each board member would have a 2-point choice and a 1-point choice, and therefore 18 grand points. That part may be a little confusing. I'm not sure that that's worded well. That's not really the grand total, it should be total points.
It would be 6 of us. It would be 18 points, but it wouldn't be like that.
Well, it would be, since each of us has a 2-point vote and a 3-point vote, or a 1-point vote, then that would be the 3 points times the 6 would be the grand total of 18.
Madam Vice President, do you think that's necessary to be in there?
You mean the 18 points?
Yeah.
No, I don't think,
Right.
maybe we just,
The point would be that every person had a first choice and a second choice, and that we didn't miss it.
the first choice is the 2 points, the second choice is just 1.
Right.
So I guess that's one of the reasons why we put that in there, so that we made sure that everybody got
That's a confusing part. I just wonder if that will confuse people more than, I guess I'm thinking of the public, but I guess it's not that important if they're confused, as long as we know what we're doing.
Yeah, they're not going to be putting the points in the readout.
Right.
Okay. Do anybody have any questions?
That's a really confusing field though.
What?
Is that 18 part?
Yeah, I know that we understand what it is, but no, I don't think anybody else would.
Well, I would assume they don't see that. Isn't that just for board
That's
use?
just for us?
So,
Yeah.
so it would be confusing.
That's for us.
It's not part of the application stuff that goes out, it's
Okay.
just for our working business, correct? That's the way I was understanding it.
Yeah.
Okay,
My understanding was that they were getting this whole package.
right, that's what I thought, that it was
Oh.
coming as a
Well,
whole.
I would leave the reading off. I don't think that needs to go in with the interview or stress somebody out or anything like that. That would be just how we see them.
Steve, I thought we just had those.
It's not filled out, it would be a blank.
It's got our names on it and stuff. It's kind of intimidating to me. I mean, I don't think it's necessary to give to anybody that's interviewing.
I just thought that we were gonna have this for tally.
It's your choice.
Okay. So we're just gonna send the packet, Chris, and the tally sheets we will send out with the packet. Everybody in favor with that? All right. So questions? Yes.
Media question. So if there's 4 people, 6 people who submit these applications, we don't do any pre-vetting, pre-looking at, in the sense of decision-making until the actual meeting. So if we see somebody who says, I have no experience, I moved to Brentford 1 week ago, I'm excited, we don't look and say, okay, then we still let them come down for the interview process.
Right.
Okay, so to make sure there was no type of vetting of people who may not meet the qualifications totally before we.
No, his experience for this.
Look, I'm not laying out here.
No, not one of us.
understand that.
I mean, we didn't,
Could have sort of done it different.
Yeah.
But super learning.
listen, I didn't even know it was a 6-year term. And I said, I told everybody that, and they laughed at me. We said it this way.
So just for understanding, I have 5 people show up who are interested, just for example. They wait out there, when they come in one at a time, we interview them, go through the questions. Could be 10 minutes, could be 20 minutes, we don't know the time frame. Is there a set time frame, how long it takes, or are we keeping time of each interviewer, or are we just going?
We did in prior times.
Okay.
It's a good question. We have slots of times. We assigned certain times and it was like maybe 15 with a 5-minute in between or something like that. But you're right, we did when we did it before. We don't do it very often. They had specific times so you didn't have everybody congregating, that they would show up just like a job interview.
That's what I was wondering.
Well, where it's an open meeting, so wouldn't we have everybody here at a particular time? Like, they'd all be here at 6:30, and then we would say, we're gonna start the interviewing,
Yeah,
you know, A, B, and C, wait outside.
I think that's what we did.
But they had a set time when we did. You know, years ago, we did it in like Shear's gym, you know, and they would come in and we interviewed people. Steve, do you remember?
My recollection is that we determined we wanted to spend 2 hours and depending on how many people we had, so then they get half an hour each if there's 4 of them, or 15 minutes if there's 8 of them, or whatever. But everybody was here at the beginning of it, and we walked through the process, and then we dismissed all but one candidate, interviewed them, brought the next one in. Because one time we had multiple candidates, and some of the second and tertiary candidates use some of the phraseology and the thought process from the first one because they were present during that first interview. And so that's why the idea is to isolate them.
So I guess we maybe think that through a little bit too. We can't really close the doors because it's still a meeting. Should we have them maybe sit in my office?
Yeah.
Or put that in my office, but give me somewhere where we can kind of put them in a corner of silence.
Yeah. And then when we get finished with one, then.
Yeah, we can't just put them in the lobby because they
No,
might be sitting here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they'd have to go back as each other one, you know, until the very end.
So I guess depending on how we can distribute it between Christine's office, my office, Jason's office, we can take a table or something. Let's see how maybe we can.
That would be good.
So do they co-mingle with each other after our interview? Do I go sit with the people who haven't interviewed yet, or like? I guess I'm trying to figure out that aspect of it. You know, like how go? I'm pretty well gonna ask you about this. I guess I'm just trying to figure out how that usually works.
We don't know.
Okay, that's fine.
But it's important we're talking about it now so that we know.
They have to stick around to the end through the whole process.
Right. I agree.
Because they may be chosen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just figuring out where they go after they sit here, because they kind of got the inside scoop on what happens, and do we want them to go sit with people who haven't interviewed yet? I don't know if that's the best idea, but where do they go?
But that's okay, it's a community position, like, you get appointed to talk and, be a part of the community. So, that's fine to talk about your interview, and that's what we want people to do, is talk about the process.
Okay.
Talk about what we do.
Yeah,
It's not like $100,000,
What?
salary
They told me.
position where it's confidentiality.
Okay.
well, because we might not, the first 8 questions, they're gonna answer in your application.
Right.
And then these are 4 questions, and we might not even ask them all 4 of these questions.
Right.
Do we have to stick to these questions?
No, you didn't. Remember, it said other questions may also be asked at that time.
We can also maybe set up a space in the store area if we think. And then after they have their interview, then they could go to store.
Yeah.
Don't look at me, sir.
What is everybody saying?
I think you guys did a good job.
Thank you.
My only concern is for us to get it clarified,
About the.
if contract
Yeah.
employees can, to me, I really think it's a conflict.
There's several of them too.
They're interested. Yeah, we'll find out. I mean, we can't tell them they can't. If they legally can apply.
That's why we need to know, because I think back when I did it, you know, I was an employee, just, you know, I was an aide, but I had to give up that, which it covers that. But we've contracted pretty much everything out through EduStaff to save money.
Yeah.
But we are still technically, we pay EduStaff to pay them. So to me, they are an employee of South, you know.
Okay, but what it stipulates that if they're chosen, if they're an employee, they have to give up.
But see, they can argue.
They want a clarification before that, though.
Yeah,
You know, so.
I get it. I really don't think that this is, we're not the only district that contracts, and so I think it's probably a pretty common question.
but you know what, I would counteract with that, Brian, then if it's changed and you say it can be done, then we could technically apply for a position through EduStaff and work for the district and sit on the school board. That's what we'd be telling them. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know the answer.
I know it's crazy because I think that, you know, I gave up my district job to do this. But now if you say, okay, because you work for EduStaff now because we've contracted them to save money, I could go apply and go through the thing for EduStaff to be a sub or anything and still sit on the school board.
That's right, me too.
And I think that's a conflict.
This seems like a conflict of interest to me.
Again, we'll have to find out what the law says, and then we'll have to do what the law says. We can't, if the law says you can't be a contracted employee, then that's that. If the law says you can be a contracted employee, we can't tell them no if the
Right.
law allows them to apply for it.
Surely, then you could apply for a part-time job because you need extra income through the district.
You're right.
I mean, we've held, you know, a lot of people, a lot of parents hold positions in there, you know, that need a little extra income. So if the law has changed and allows that, that means technically when there's an opening, any of us could apply through HR for that opening and still sit on the school board.
If it's if that's how the law reads, I don't
Right.
know.
No, that just it gives you a lot to think about.
But again, I think you will get a pretty cut and dry answer from the MSBO, because I don't think it's a unique situation.
Or MASB,
I mean,
Paul Brad.
Yeah, because you know what?
Yeah, I'm not,
They probably had that come up,
I'm sure.
so
If
we'll.
not, then they're gonna do some research.
You may be filling out applications, Jason.
We have them.
We do have all.
Well, yeah, we could put in for
I'm not kidding. I'll go back to being a lunch monitor. Works with my schedule and give you that extra money in your pocket.
Well, I know what I put in.
Assistant superintendent, but you're gonna have to crystal fight over
No,
that.
I don't want to do that. I'll put in for a parent.
Oh, God.
Jason will have to hire me. Well, anybody else have any more questions about our package? Yes, no? Okay. So let's see what's the next item. So that's all we need to do, Chris, is find out that. Okay. Thank you. Oh, and do we decide about the time frame?
You read a time frame on one of those sheets, what we were doing on what day.
No, I'm talking about the 15 minutes or how,
I think it's, you have to wait to see how many applications you get.
but we still need to set up the time. Because I didn't even think of a time.
What time of the meeting, like the whole meeting?
Or how long you get.
Or how long you get when we interview. think 15 minutes is long enough. What does everybody else think?
I wonder if you wanna, I think you wanna give yourself some wiggle room, because what if you get into some interesting questions with a candidate? You don't wanna say just, well,
Okay,
sorry, we can't get more information, but
okay.
maybe you could put parameters.
Well, we could try to
Approximately
play
20
it by
minutes or
ear, I
something.
guess.
You don't wanna be here all night either. You know what I mean? If you don't set a limit,
that's why
and you have 8 people that apply, at 30 minutes, we're gonna have a really long night.
That's why we did the 2 days.
But you didn't survey people of the board to see if they're available that second day when you pull it off of Monday. Mondays usually board members keep open, but board members have other commitments outside of the district.
Okay.
They might not be available the second day. So that's something to think about too. Sorry, Shirley.
I'll think on that. Steve and I will get together and we'll think on that as the application starts. Is that fair?
Well, if the board's not available on the second day, there's nothing to think about. I think you better send out something and pull the board to look at their calendar and see if it goes over the second day. If you're, because we're gonna need 4 of us voting the same way to even get anything passed.
That's
And Vice President, I mean, if you're out here, you might wanna look now and see if.
I don't have my calendar on me.
Well, we'll have to do, well, actually, what I was thinking is that, we'll see how the applications come in, and then go from there.
Madam Vice President, I can make myself available for the second day. I can just move things around from this on the 31st, so I'll make myself available.
All right, thank you.
I'm always available.
You're in the hospital.
I just want maybe on the 31st. I do have to add something, but
See?
we're here. I can be here.
Be sure to check your calendar.
Okay. I'll let you know.
Okay. Are all questions answered and all minds understandable? I guess it is. Okay, let's move on. Next item on the agenda is to discuss Gibson abatement project. Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. The board has been given information regarding the bid. I think you actually saw the actual bid documents for the abatement of Gibson, which is the old Will Rogers building. It's been vacant for a lot of years, so we've been talking about it, the building coming down. The lowest bid is BDS Services, Building Demolition, or Decommission Services. And that the lowest bid was $269,990. You might have, when you looked at the bid, you might have seen part of their bid, an alternate their bid was for fencing. And the fencing bid was, I think, $45,000. We believe we'll be able to get the fencing we need for the entire project for less than half of that. So we didn't accept their alternate for the fencing. So that's why the number is $269,990. I'm going to recommend that we blend the funding for this. $70,286 out of the bond funds, now $199,704 out of the general fund. So that would be my recommendation to the board. $70,286 out of bond proceeds, and then $199,704 out of the general fund.
We include those in the
Right up.
the layout for next time.
Yeah, it'll be in the resolution. Do you want it in the resolution? Or just read?
Yeah.
And then, if the board so approves this at the next meeting, work technically will start the next day on that. The fencing may or may not be up on that time. Typically, in a project like this, the fencing isn't up for abatement. So we're going to see, we're working on that now. People tend to stay away from buildings that are being removed of asbestos. So, and there'll be warning signs and all that around it. So stay away.
I can tell my neighbor every time I walk, he asks me about Gibson. And so I told him it was coming down sometime in September.
I would tell you, when I was canvassing the area, in that area, that was the number one question I received.
I'm sure.
From the bond people, what do you do with that building? What do you do with that building?
Yeah.
So the community is anxious for it to come down. So I'm glad we're going to get this done quick, and I think the community will be happy. So it'll take about 6 weeks for abatement, and then immediately following that, the demolition people will come in. I don't know how long that will take, but I anticipate that it'll be down for the snow flies. What might not be done is the final grading. So we might, if you remember the Ashcroft project, it was the same thing. They kind of leveled it. They leveled the ground, and then they came in the spring, and then they put in the grass seed and then the final grade. So depending on how long it takes for the construction, or deconstruction. Any other questions regarding the motion? Okay, that's all I have. Vice President on that.
Next item on the agenda, discuss district facility usage fees.
So a board member has asked for this discussion to come up on the table. But the history on this is, well, I'm going to have to defer to some board members who were around prior to me coming to this table, but I know as a principal, we didn't charge fees for community use of most things. I think there were some fees for some things. And then the board, there was a time when the board was trying to figure out how to balance the budget. I think that this came in, again, targeting a little out of turn here because I wasn't at the table or part of the conversation. So there was a time when the table was put together with the amounts for being able to rent facilities. And so we've been abiding by that since it was put in by the board, certainly as long as I've been around. So it's a good question is, do we want to continue with these fees? Are the fees reasonable? Those are the questions that are on the table. So the board president did ask me to do some investigation in terms of, well, what are other districts charging? And I thought that would be a rather easy thing to find out. But Chris has been working diligently on trying to get that information. And it's been slow at best, information coming in. I think some of it is because people are out, in districts, and some districts still have people out in various departments, and so you have the information in front of you that has been given to us. We still have the asks out there in terms of what our fees, and so that is the kind of framing the conversation. Questions about the framing of it?
I'm the board member who asked about fees, so I guess I'll talk about it a little bit. I asked a question because I've been renting the gym space and wasn't sure of what the fees were really about. So I asked the question of why was this much per gym, what's the custodial fees, things like that, because, and I don't know if this is pandemic related or not, what I was getting charged, I wasn't getting those services for, so I was just wondering, well, why am I getting charged for something that I'm not getting that service for? So that's why, after a few conversations with Brian about it, I just wanted to bring it to the table just to get a clearer understanding of the origin of the fees and how they go about getting put into motion as being fees. So that's why we're talking about it, because our basketball program has been renting Pierce for the last 5 months, and getting invoices for things, and we're not getting those services, so not understanding why we're getting charged for things that we're definitely not getting. And just wanted to bring the conversation up. I know this was put into motion 10 plus years ago, I guess, and just wanted to revisit it, because in my mind, as a board member, I'm going to be using the facilities a lot just to do things, because I'm really invested in helping the young people get into different spaces and learn things. So I have a long-term commitment to rent spaces around South Redford and things like that. And just wanted to get a firm grasp on how these fees came to be. So that's why I wanted to bring it to the table, just to get a better understanding of the charges, the fees.
And Vice President? I do think that it is, as I've been thinking about this is a little bit more complicated, I think, than just the fees themselves, because we have different groups that use the facilities, and we all know what RTGAA is, and the Youth Redford Eagles football program, and we also have recitals, dance companies that use it. We have for-profit companies. Well, I guess recital dance recital companies would be for-profit. We have on occasion we have driver's ed companies that will rent a classroom, those kinds of things, for profit. And so I'm thinking a little bit of how the board might approach this and look at it. I'm not, certainly have conversations at the table, but maybe a recommendation would be to put together a group, I don't know, I guess a committee, you call it a committee, but to get together and delve into it and find out, really ask the questions, and maybe the committee could report back to the board. It could be a committee at the board, or it could be, I might suggest you put other people on that, that might have a perspective on it too. Just a thought, we're trying to figure out how we move the conversation forward. I think get, real legitimate answers. I think it's a great question to ask. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know whether the table is what we stick with, and that's the end of the story. If there are modifications to the table, you throw the whole table out. I don't know. I really don't know. I do know that everyone at the table wants to do the right thing for their community, and but I think in order to do that, we really need to dive deep. There's a lot of different layers to it, and layers that I don't even know, that I'm not even thinking about right now, and that would allow that group to be able to do more investigation, do more thinking, and have more conversation, and then maybe report back to the board.
To the chair, I have a question for Brian, or anybody at the table. I guess when I practice and look at these fees, I know there's some people we don't charge, okay? But there are organizations we do charge because they charge a fee to the people that are using it. They're making a profit, like you said. So my question would be, if it's an organization, if you charge a fee for your kids to play, the money, part of that money should be whatever you charge, like RTJA and the other groups, should go toward paying toward the facilities. Because somebody's making a profit, so where is that money coming? Like if we were to say as a board, okay, you get to pay free your teams, but you're collecting dues from people, what are you doing? Are you paying salaries? I mean, I have lots of questions that way.
Right.
You know, if you're strictly a nonprofit, you're not making money. You're just covering your costs. There should be no salaries paid or anything. And I'd be more prone to say, okay, use our facilities. They're, they're community facilities, because the Girl Scouts or the Boy Scouts, they're not collecting money to do different things, so they use a classroom here and there. So I guess that's my thought in the breakdown when I'm thinking, what do you charge if we were having, different scaled stuff? Are they collecting fees? RTGA collects fees, we charge them. Redford Rangers play to use our field because they're collecting fees from the kids. And to me, that's only fair that you give something back because there is a cost. And I guess I look at it that way because I run a nonprofit, and if I was paying myself a salary, I think I should be paying towards holding up a facility, but that's just my views on it.
I will say that some of those organizations are also nonprofit, and they don't get salaries, and unless things have changed. I know I coached for both RTJA and the Redford, was the Rangers, now the Eagles, and there were no paid positions except for referees. They paid referees. They're typically high school kids at ref, and so I think it gets real complicated with the football league. You have league fees, those kinds of things. With RTJ, you don't, because it's all in house. But again, that's why I think it's more complicated than just the table. I think that there's really good questions here, and I think they deserve to be discussed out.
Yeah, just one more thought too, is if it's directly our kids, that's one thing, that it's being set up, these groups for South Redford. But if you have private groups coming in, and it's not strictly focused on our South Redford students, I think they should help pay toward the cost, because we do have costs, especially if you're trying to get into one of our fancy gyms. Looks great. If you're hosting something, you're making money, you're charging people to come in and see, so I think it should be kind of divided up. That's just my way of thinking. I don't,
Is this a community issue? Like, has anyone had an issue with it? Or is this just a personal thing? Like, is the community upset about this chart?
No, I will tell you that the community wrestles sometimes. Community groups sometimes wrestle with enough money to pay the things, and so I'll give you an example. RTGA struggles to be able to pay the fees, to be able to run their program, and so that would be the only people that would complain or struggle with it that I've heard.
In my group, I'm sorry, 70% of our kids are South Redford kids. It's a basketball AAU program, but we do get kids from Detroit and know about some other areas. But we charge some fees for uniforms, tournaments we play in, and gym usage because and none of us get paid anything. So compared to what we charge in other AAU programs, we charge like $450 and others charge like $1,000. So we charge the bare minimum that we have to charge in order to get the uniform and play these tournaments. So no one's getting paid anything, and this came up because there's other gyms that we could use that are less, but as I said before, I'd rather have us pay for gyms here in South Redford than Belleville or Westland because I'm here. So that was kind of my whole thinking for all this is, if I want to spend money on a gym, I want to spend it here than somewhere else. So just trying to get a better understanding of the fees and things like that. Because as a community member, someone who's taking care of South Redford kids, 4th grade through high school, it's like, I don't want to tax them to use a gym. It's like, and that's kind of what the conversation with the parents and the kids are. It's like, well, my kid goes to Pierce, why are we? I'm just like, well, I'll bring the question up to the, school board. They're wondering the same thing.
I used to work with the PAL leagues, and we had to pay the fee for the usage, even though they were Detroit public schools, and we had our meetings at PAL, but we still, because we charged our kids bare minimum. And we put in a lot of money, just so the kids could have uniforms. But we still were charged for the usage of those facilities that we use. So, a lot of times we would go to our Wayne County commissioners and they would help us get money so we could pay that fee. But we were charged too.
Madam President.
Yes.
My question is, because I don't even think that's an issue for you, like being charged, right? At all. Is that an issue?
No, I don't mind, it's
But
not
you
being
had said
charged.
that you had, was it getting services that you were paying for?
Right.
What service was that?
The custodial service. I mean, that's the half of our charges per month are custodial services. And in the 5 months we've been there, I haven't seen a custodial person, not once, since we've been to the gym. And so, and I know I just followed the proper chains of commands and talked to the secretaries and principals and blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, I don't know. That's the reason why I brought this up, is because of the monthly custodial fees that we're getting charged. And like I said, I let us into the gym, I let us out the gym every day we're in the gym, and there's no one there except the people who are cleaning Pierce as their 6 to 9 o'clock job that they're doing. There's no one there. And from my understanding, there should be someone who is kind of our liaison, custodial person, to say, hey, if you need something, let us know. That has never been the case. So that's why I kind of brought this whole thing to the table, because I don't know if there's a disconnect somewhere. I know they're understaffed, and I get all of that, but just trying to get a better understanding of how this process should work with bringing up the space and things like that.
I have another thought to the chair. Like, Daniel, you just said you let them in, you let them out. Board members normally don't do that and never have done that. Our custodians or administrators or something, that's why there is a fee, are responsible in locking those up. That's a big responsibility, and as a board member, I wouldn't be opening up the school or shutting up the school. I find that hard to wrap my head around, because it's not something we've ever done. I don't think any of us at the table, if you asked, has done that. We've occasionally let ourselves in when we're locked out coming for a meeting, but to have full access to a school and kids and the responsibility, I find that a little bit too much as a board member. Because that's why we have custodians and administrators that are paid to lock the doors and make sure everything is secure.
I don't disagree with you, but at what point, like I said, I'm about the kids, I'm not about that.
Right.
I'm trying to help kids. And so what you're saying is fine, but I'm not on that level. I'm a school board member. It's about the kids for me. Always has been, always will be. So when I come and I say, hey, we're having practice on Wednesday, and I look around at 6 o'clock and I'm saying, no one's here. I know I followed the chain of command to get this done. We're going to go about business. I mean, there's been numerous times where I followed the chain of command and following tables on the floor. I got pictures, I sent it to everybody and their mama about in tables where we're going to have a move. They're not moved. So we moved the tables as a program. I mean, I get it, but my frustration is I can't wait on people to do what they are supposed to do, or, I'm just like, it's about helping these kids and giving them a space to do what they need to do.
And you've gone through chain of command, you've gone through where you apply to the building administrator and say, hey, this is what's happening, because have you told Brian?
Daniel and I have had a conversation
about it not being it, because I have a problem with a board member going in and out and doing what he's doing. Because of just for liability, but I understand now why. If you're frustrated and it's not set up and you've gone through and you filled out everything, and if they're generally not doing what they should do and have it ready for him, then he should not have to pay that extra fee.
So, yeah, so I agree with you, board members shouldn't be letting groups in for sure.
I did it for 8 years.
I did it too.
Marching band.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, but there should be, the door, if you have an event at 6 o'clock, and the door should be open, or there should be somebody at the door
To open it.
to open, for sure, that's a problem if that's not happening.
Is that policy,
And-
like, do we have policy written for that part? Like, rules of what is supposed to happen?
Well, that wouldn't be policy, but that would be a procedure, but that
I mean, a
just makes,
procedure, yeah,
it just
we
makes
have
sense.
that, but,
That's under operation through Brian's
yeah,
department.
we're gonna have to like really put that, that's not out of the order, that happens a lot.
That,
Well,
that,
that's not good.
Yeah, it's not.
so that shouldn't happen, there should be, if you're there at 6, the door should be open, or there should be someone there to open for you.
I thought principals, they would have to come from their home. I opened the door, but.
So,
it's not like that, so.
No, I hear you, that should happen.
Right, somewhere stated that, you know, that.
Well, that doesn't even have to be stated, because if you rent something, you're supposed to
Well,
come in the door
somebody
at
has,
6 o'clock.
has to be
The
there.
door should be open, right?
What?
So, I mean, that's just common sense. And so, oh, where was it going? Oh, with the custodial charge isn't necessarily there so that there's a custodian in the room with you when you're doing your basketball or Girl Scouts or whatever. It's there because, so if your group wasn't there, then the custodian might not have to work on that room, or you can clean after school, or maybe it wasn't used or something. So they have, you know, from when they punch in to when they punch out, they have X amount of work to do. Well, if there's another group in there, that means they have more work to do. And so it might be them, it might be someone else. You don't always see what's happening. Sometimes if let's say I want Adams at 6 o'clock, we may not be a custodian there because there may not, custodians go between buildings. So I might have to move somebody over there to do that work. And so, I would not suggest that we customize and say every single application needs to be looked at. And, how are we going to juggle around custodians, or how is that going to work? Because that would just be too much work on the staff. And it's not at all unusual. As a matter of fact, I think, I would guess, once we get all the information, that everybody charges a custodial charge. Districts do. But again, I really think the best way to approach it is to, I don't know if we're charging correctly or not. I don't. I'd be lying if I said I spent a lot of time looking at it. And I didn't have any, I wasn't any part of any conversations when it started. And so, I really do think it's a great question. And I think that we delve into it. We can look at custodial charges and, exactly how does that work? And what are all the implications of it? Again, I think we could tear it apart here at the table. I don't know if it's the best use of your time. Again, I would suggest that we get together a group of people who look into it and kind of tear into it.
I wouldn't mind spearheading it. Like I said, I'm not a problem maker, I'm a problem solver. And for a month and a half, I said really nothing about this. I was getting these bills, and I kind of had off conversation with Brian. It was like, Brian, then I brought it up. Even the meeting I was supposed to brought it up, I didn't. Because I'm like, well, maybe it'll fix itself. But month after month, we're showing up, and I'm unlocking the door.
No, I understand that's where I have a problem. He should not have
And I'm
to.
going back, I'm going back and making sure everything is clean. I'm putting bottles, cleaning up the trash, literally taking tables and chairs off the floors, putting them back. Yeah. So all those things. So I was trying to follow all the rules and that things, but it's just like every month I'm getting this bill, $1,000 for custodial, $1,000 for custodial. I'm just like, I haven't seen one custodial person.
And you had to let them in every time, let your kids in.
Wednesday,
That's
Thursday,
one
Friday,
of
I'm
the
letting them
biggest
in.
problems I have.
And like I said, that's not even an issue letting them in. I'm just, like I said,
But
it's
you
not
shouldn't
about
have
to
to.
pay something, it's just like, what am I paying for? So that's my biggest thing. It doesn't bother me letting them in. It truly doesn't, because I like to be around when I'm dealing with something. If my name's on something, I want to be around to kind of see what's going on.
But see, what if it was somebody else in the community? You just happen to be a board member that has
Right, yeah.
a thing.
That's the bigger
Some
issue.
other community, that's the problem I'm
Yes.
having right
Yes,
now.
that's the bigger
That
issue.
you're telling me. It could be, my sister, my brother, my uncle that's meeting a group of their kids, and then they're stuck.
Yeah.
It could be cold. I mean, that's why I approached Brian 2 years ago to ask if the board members could have that, because I'd be going to PTO meetings and couldn't get in. The buildings were locked, you'd be out there and it's raining and snow. So we could let ourselves in to go to the meetings. you shouldn't have to have that responsibility. Those doors should be open and that room should be ready for you. That's what you're paying for. So I can see where it'd be frustrating and kind of Brian, he needs a refund.
I will,
mean,
I will look into the problem of custodians not being at the door or the door not being open. I think that's a different issue though.
Right.
I think it is.
Well, then
Than the charges. I mean, if that's the only issue, I'll have that addressed.
It's not though.
Yeah.
And I'll be at the doors to make sure people come
It's
in.
not the only.
If that's the only issue, then that's solved. But I guess what I thought was the amount we're charging was an issue. If that's not an issue, then we don't need to put a committee
Well,
together.
yeah, I mean, and I know some places don't charge for fees like that, like you said. So like I said, I just want to get a full understanding of what the fees were and why they were put there. Cause I had no understanding. I just know that I was getting these invoices. I'm just like, okay, I'm getting charged X amount for the gym. Why am I getting charged for custodial fees? Because I can go to Dearborn and rent one of their rec spaces with no custodial fees. I just can go rent the space for $35 and be done with it. So that's why I was just trying to figure out the whole gist of why these fees are here and what's the point behind them. So,
I think we need more data
I think
when the fall comes in and they come back in to see, because this doesn't show us Crestwood, Garden City,
Yeah.
The surrounding communities, Dearborn, and that, to even compare, to even see if they're, but,
There's no doubt we need more information on what surrounding communities, and we're going to continue to mine that. It's been, for some reason, it's been like pulling teeth.
If it hasn't changed for 10 years, then we're the deal. Well, we're probably the cheapest
I still
around.
think it needs to, I don't know if the prices per se need to be changed, but we definitely need to look.
Definitely cheap.
You know, a decade
Yeah.
old,
Super cheap,
I think,
which is good.
I think.
right, that's what I'm saying, we need to do.
Yeah.
I think what we need to do, what Brian needs to do is continue to have Chris look at surrounding areas, and then we need to also find out why Daniel is opening these buildings.
I will make sure that when someone has a building rented for a particular time, the door will be open or there'll be somebody there to
I think that.
To make sure that door
I think
is open.
I think that's what needs to happen.
That's
A little bit deeper
that's done.
into certain policies, I mean, not policies, but practices.
yeah, I mean, my biggest thing is just the process of how things, you know, go to the secretary, let them know, submit the paperwork, let everybody know, and put it in the FSS or STF, whatever the letters is called, the letters, and it goes there, everyone sees it, and it's like, okay, we have this going on, then we get there, and it's like crickets, like, okay, no one's here, who's supposed to let us in? And then I go swipe us in, let the custodial people know up on the second floor, hey, we're here, I don't want you to think we're just some random people, and we get on with our day, and I just like, is this the process, is how it's supposed to work? And it doesn't seem like that's the way it's supposed to work, so it's a bigger thing for me, it's just a,
I'm gonna be honest tomorrow.
yeah.
If your activity is approved, the door will be open.
right.
End of story.
Yeah, and you know, like you were saying, it's the other groups, this is my big thing, it's the other groups that don't have access. It would be bad for someone.
You know,
There are people that don't.
And that's the sad part. It's bad enough it's you, and you can go in, and, but, it's all those other little people or little groups
Any group
that are not in there, and if he legitimately, if nobody's there and he's opening them in, then we definitely have overcharged him, as our policy and stuff
Right.
sits now. We really need to go back and look at that.
And he shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, and
I agree with you. The door should be open. The door will be open. Starting tomorrow, I'm looking
I don't have an
into
issue
it.
with the door.
If somebody has
I have an issue with other stuff.
an approved thing, the door should be open.
Cause I've done things, with the buildings and with this other stuff, that go on, that makes it very difficult for you to put on whatever it is you're putting on.
So
So
we should.
look into that part. I don't even think that's his issue, the opening of the door. I think it's.
But he shouldn't have to, and it's really,
Practices that are being done in the buildings.
Like what?
We should.
Like locking of the basketball hoops when he needs them. They put a lock on them.
I think we'll bring that up.
Well, we're gonna bring it up, we're talking about it, let's bring it up. But, you know, things of those little bitty nitpicky things, so.
So, I don't know, and I can't.
So,
If there's,
so,
if there's,
there are things
you
that
have,
are happening.
if you have an approved thing, then you should be able to get in and use the facility. If that's not happening, then I need to know. I don't know anything about locks or anything.
Yeah,
If
so,
the gym, you're,
I didn't wanna, you know, I take over things, I don't wanna do that. You know, but
if you've been approved to use a gym, then you use
you
the
should
gym.
have the
If
facility.
you're approved to use the theater, then you use the theater.
And
If you're
if
approved to use the
But even I
class,
have had conversations with people, with staff about that, like, hey, well, we didn't say, you don't have to say, I already got my approval, you know, from different things, so open it, so I can use it. But it's difficult in some instances to do that. It is.
I would definitely, you know,
But see, Daniel's nice, I'm nice until I'm not.
My 6 months ago was nice. I'm not being nice anymore. I had 6 months ago being nice. Now it's not being nice. It's just things got to get better. And the situation was I was winning Gym D, and the teacher in there didn't want me to use the gym, so she put covers and locks on all the rims, so we couldn't check, so we couldn't get there. So
On all of the basketball rims.
So we had to come get the chain cut off so that we could actually, yeah. So.
And she's done it
look
once
into
or
that. It's the first I'm hearing of that.
Yeah, no, but I'll be trying to keep you out the weeds
Well, no,
sometimes.
but
But now I am
Because
not.
it's a big issue.
Yeah.
Not like that.
Yeah, so-
Ryan should know that.
Yeah, so now, 6 months, I'm trying to play nice. Now I told Steve I would be good for 6 months. Now I'm addressing things. So,
That's still playing nice, because that's the way you make change, is to bring it and talk.
That's right.
And, you know, when you don't hear it and don't know, you know, then you don't know that you have support here to help. So never be afraid to not.
6 months I gave myself time to learn. I didn't want to be, but now it's up. So guess what? All the cards on the table. I'm just addressing things. So it won't have to be more. 6 months I was done stuff, just taking it all in. So yeah.
Your problem should be, Brian should know your problem.
I'm a receptacle.
All right, that's it.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, next item on the agenda is comments from the audience.
We have done.
Next item on the agenda is Plus Delta and board comments. Dr. Holt.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. What input do you have for today's meeting? What processes went well or didn't go well? Pluses and deltas to the chair?
Yes.
I think what Steve and Shirley put together for our screening for our next candidate was very good. A lot of information, a lot of hard work, thought went into that. So I think that will help us move more smoothly through our next phase of appointing a board member. And then I have one more. And then I think just the open dialogue, even though it might start off a little rough about the charges and stuff, to get it out on the table, to talk and know there are problems. That's the only way we can fix it or address it, is not being afraid to, it could be a plus or a delta, not being afraid to just throw it out there, you know?
Thank you. Other pluses or deltas? Anything we could do better for next time?
Chocolate.
We didn't have our chocolate.
Oh, that's the thing. He says he has fruit snacks.
Chocolate.
Anything else? Pluses or minuses? Pluses or deltas?
I just wanted to say Chris did very well when he got the camera together to record our meeting. Thank you, Chris.
And where will we post it?
Where we gonna post
Where
it?
would you post it?
On the website.
If there's no other pluses or deltas, it's back to you, Madam Vice President.
Alrighty, thank you. Well, if there's nothing else that comes before this board, I call this meeting adjourned at
8:07?
8:07. Thank you, guys.